How 3 foreign billionaires hijacked a country, the South African state capture. What if you could control a country without running for office? What if all it took was money, manipulation, and a few well-placed phone calls? In the heart of Southern Africa, 3 foreign businessmen infiltrated the highest levels of power, not with armies or votes, but with corruption, cunning, and cold hard cash.
Notorious Gupta brothers of South Africa.
They didn't just buy influence, they hijacked the state. This is the story of how the Gupta family allegedly turned South Africa into their personal ATM. This is money and crime, and this is how you steal a nation. The year was 1993. Nelson Mandela had just been released from prison.
There's Mr. Mandela, Mr. Nelson Mandela, a free man taking his first steps into a new South Africa.
Apartheid was ending. South Africa was becoming a democracy. And into that fragile transition walked the Gupta brothers, Ajay, Atul, Rajesh. Immigrants from India who arrived with barely a footprint. They opened a small IT company, Sahara Computers. But unlike other tech entrepreneurs, they weren't chasing market share. They were chasing access to power. At first, they courted local politicians, then cabinet members, and by the early 2000s, they had set their sights on one man, Jacob. Zuma was charming, populist, and politically ambitious. He was also vulnerable. Facing corruption charges and in need of allies, Zuma was a perfect target. The Guptas didn't just support him, they funded him, paid for his legal bills.
Now, the fugitive Gupta brothers are accused in South Africa of using their relationship with former President Jacob Zuma to profit financially and influence senior appointments as well.
Even helped his son, Zuma, build a business empire of his own. When Zuma rose through the ranks of the ANC and became deputy president, the Guptas were right there with him. When he became president in 2009, they were untouchable. By 2010, it was clear the Guptas were no longer just businessmen. They were kingmakers. Cabinet reshuffles? Ministers were allegedly hired or fired based on whether they obeyed the Guptas. One finance minister claimed he was offered the top job by the Guptas days before the president made it official. They didn't need to run for office. They ran the men who held office, and they wanted more than power. They wanted profit. So they infiltrated the most lucrative parts of the economy: energy, transport, defense, mining, telecommunications. They bought media companies, newspapers, TV stations to shape public opinion and bury negative press. Then came the contracts, state-owned enterprises. Like Eskom, the electricity giant, and Transnet, the railway company, were drained through inflated tenders, bogus consulting deals, and shell companies controlled by, guess who? The Guptas. Billions of rands vanished, and South Africans started asking questions. In 2016, the first major crack appeared. The public protector released the State of Capture report. It revealed systemic corruption at the highest levels, detailing how the Guptas manipulated tenders, appointments, and government policy. But that was just the start. In 2017, an anonymous whistleblower leaked over 100,000 internal emails, the Gupta leaks. These weren't rumors. These were receipts, flight logs showing ministers flying to Dubai, paid for by the Guptas, invoices revealing how government funds were funneled into shell companies, emails showing how speeches, job offers, even cabinet memos were drafted. Not by the government, but by Gupta employees. It was state capture, in writing. The public was outraged. Civil society exploded in protest. Global companies that did business with the Guptas, like KPMG, McKinsey, and SAP, scrambled to save face. It was a scandal that reached every corner of the economy and every corner of Zuma's government. By 2018, the pressure was too great. After years of denial and deflection, President Jacob Zuma was forced to resign by his own party. The new president, Cyril Ramaphosa, promised reform. He launched commissions, fired ministers, and swore to clean house. But there was one problem. The Guptas were gone. They had fled to Dubai, living in mansions, protected by international lawyers. Beyond the reach of South African law, despite Interpol red notices and extradition requests, the UAE delayed and in 2023 quietly dropped the case. The brothers remained untouchable, the billions remained missing, and South Africa was left with the wreckage. Today, Eskom, once one of the best power utilities in the world, suffers from daily blackouts. Unemployment is over 30%. Trust in government is at an all-time low. And the term state capture has become a national wound. The Zondo Commission, a multi-year inquiry into the scandal, revealed just how deep the rot went. It produced thousands of pages of evidence. But justice? Still pending. The Guptas' South African assets have been frozen, but they're sitting on foreign wealth. Most of the ministers implicated, still walking free. And Gupta-Zuma? He went to prison, but only for contempt of court. He was released. On medical parole months later. He's now back in politics. What happened in South Africa wasn't a freak occurrence. It's a blueprint. State capture isn't just corruption, it's systematic takeover. A slow-motion coup using money, manipulation, and media. It's what happens when business doesn't just influence government, it becomes government. The Gupta playbook has been seen elsewhere. In Russia's oligarchs, Malaysia's 1MDB scandal, and even in Western democracies where lobbying has become legalized bribery. It's not about countries anymore, it's about power, and those rich enough to buy it. So what do we learn from South Africa? That democracy can be hijacked without firing a single bullet. That corruption doesn't always wear a mask or carry a gun. Sometimes it wears a suit, smiles, for cameras, and writes the president's speeches.
That every single time Gupta-Zuma was speaking to us as a nation, he was actually telling us what the Guptas were saying to him, like he had one of those earpieces.
This wasn't a robbery, it was a purchase. And for the right price, the soul of a nation was sold. This is money and crime, and this was the story of how three brothers quietly took over South Africa and vanished before the bill came due.